As we said there in the intro, I mean, this has been years that you've been campaigning for this, warning that an event as disastrous as this was likely.
There have been a number of people who have been raising warnings about this sort of thing. I gave a talk to the British Standards Institution's 7th annual fire conference, at which I spoke about gaps and problems with fire risk assessments and the fact that areas aren't checked. And one of the areas that I raised was the risk of cladding fires. And I said that this will happen in this country because the type of materials being allowed on buildings that used to be safe under the London Building Act is now making them highly dangerous.
Yeah. So if this building hadn't been clad in the way it was clad, this fire wouldn't have happened?
The fire would have happened in the flat, but it wouldn't have got out and it wouldn't have spread to any other flats.
Well, the Gernfall Action Group say in their blog, firmly believe that only a catastrophic event will expose the ineptitude and incompetence of our landlord, the KCTMO, which is the Kensington and Chelsea Tenant Management Organisation. It's our conviction that a serious fire in a tower block is the most likely reason those who wield power will be found out and brought to justice. They then updated their website with a post which said, regular readers of this blog will know that we've posted numerous warnings in recent years about the very poor safety standards at Grenfell Tower and elsewhere in RBKC, which is the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. All our warnings fell on deaf ears, and we predicted that a catastrophe like this was inevitable and just a matter of time. There'll be people in tower blocks up and down this country, 1 million residents in tower blocks in this country, 4,000 tower blocks, who'll be sitting there going, well, what about us?
Indeed. You know, most of the problems that are occurring are due to alterations being made over the years. We had it in the 2009 Lakanal fire, where alterations to another Section 20 London Building Act building caused it to fire to spread from flat to flat and into corridors, because the works done was shoddy and the materials used and permitted to be used under building regulations aren't fit for purpose.
So is that the problem here? Because the management would say that they were acting in accordance with the building regs. So is that what we need to see, a huge overhaul, so that we don't see things like this happening again?
We certainly need to see an overhaul of Part B of the building regulations, which deals with fire safety. Why are we allowed to clad high-rise buildings with flammable materials? Why are we allowed to put timber on buildings up to a certain height on the grounds that people say, in official say, it's hard to ignite? I have no problem igniting wood. I have no problem igniting a lot of the insulation materials which are now used on buildings.
Is it just money? Is it just cheap? Is it because they think, right, well, we're just going to bung up anything because it saves us money, it's cost-benefit?
Well, if you're meeting the regulations and you're meeting the heat loss improvements on the buildings for global warming measures, why spend more money if you're allowed to use these materials?
But I was listening to Piers Morgan on GMB yesterday, was grilling the boss of the company that put the cladding on the side of the building, and he was given a proper roasting because the guy didn't know at that time what it was actually made out of. So you're saying that this cladding on the side of buildings is flammable?
The cladding used, that I understand to have been used, is flammable. We had a fire in 2014 in Melbourne, Australia. Exactly the same material was used there as is being reported as being used on this building by Rydens. It is 2 sheets of aluminium thickened up with a polyethylene core, which is highly flammable. Polyethylene is molten at 120 degrees centigrade. It doesn't take much to put this, you could call it a candle, on fire. And then how do you put it out as a firefighter when it's sandwiched between 2 sheets of aluminium?